Join us at a Friends of NRA event where freedom, fun, and firearms come together like nowhere else. With more than 600 events held across the country, there's always one happening near you. From exciting games to exclusive auctions featuring one-of-a-kind firearms and gear you won't find anywhere else. Whether you're a lifelong hunter, a competitive shooter, or simply passionate about defending freedom, there is a seat for you. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you and get ready for a night you won't forget.
Hunting is not easy. It never has been. It takes dedication, motivation, a lot of patience, and quality gear. If you manage a food plot, put up stands, or need just one more game camera, we can help at MidwayUSA.com. We opened our doors in 1977 and continue to put customers first by offering super fast, same-day shipping. For just about everything for the outdoors, go to MidwayUSA.com.
This episode is brought to you by Vortex Optics and Ignite Marketing Group. Check the links in the show notes.
And as we were coming back down off that ridge, I went down to that wallow. And to say my dad was a elk nut would be justice. He loved elk hunting.
Yeah.
Our neighbors hated him throughout the summer, sitting there calling, and he was fanatical about it. And so I just thought to myself, I was carrying around his ashes, and I'd put them in rivers and different cool spots, little apple orchards that we used to hunt deer at and stuff. I thought, man, that would be cool to throw his ashes in this wallow, and some bull, like, he would think that was so cool for a bull to sit down there and get all muddy and stinky and then carry him off, wherever he ended up going across the mountain.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and we got a great episode for you today. Today, we're connecting with Leif Wywadis. I hope I pronounced that correctly for you, Leif. But he's a listener who's been listening to the show, fallen in love with it, and he wanted to share some stories, in particular one that he had to get permission from his wife to tell on the story. So I hope you guys are excited to hear that story. It cracked me up. I didn't see it coming. So, Leif, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for being brave enough to reach out and say you have some stories to tell. For you listeners, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you enjoy what you hear at the end of the episode, go ahead and give us a like and a follow. And if you don't, that's fine too. Either way, let's go ahead and kick this thing off and let Leif tell you some of his stories. Thank you. All right, Leif. Welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast, brother. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to have you here. Once again, another listener who found our little survey, filled it out, and said, hey, I've got some fun stories to tell. I think you had to get some permission from some folks to tell some stories, and hopefully that means they're a little bit embarrassing. But I'm excited to have you here today, man.
I appreciate it. And like I said, I love hearing other people's stories. And I think it's a big void in a lot of the media that's out there that doesn't tell the whole picture or paint the whole picture.
Right. Yeah, a lot of the videos are, they go out hunting for 10 days, then make a 15-minute video. It's like you're not getting the bulk of it, right? So, well, cool, man. Let's do this. Leif, why don't you introduce yourself? Why don't you tell the folks who you are, where you're from, et cetera, maybe how long you've been hunting, and then we'll jump into some stories.
Okay, my name is Leif Wywadis. I'm married. I got 2 kids, 9 and 17. I'm 44 years old. I've lived in the state of Washington for 44 years. I'm a first sergeant in a maintenance company for the Washington Army National Guard.
Okay.
I am the BHA Armed Forces Initiative Liaison for JBLM, Joint Base Lewis McChord, here
awesome.
Right outside of Tacoma.
Okay.
And I love to hunt and fish.
There we go. You've been hunting and fishing your whole life?
Yeah, I would say probably since I can remember. So
okay,
yeah.
Okay, so I assume it's just generations upon generations of hunting and fishing for your family, or did your dad pick it up first?
My dad learned from his dad and his buddies and his dad's buddies and just the community. My dad was originally from Hummelstown, Pennsylvania, just outside by Hershey, Harrisburg area. And the whole area at that time was real rich in small game and big game hunting. So
Amazing. And are you more of an archery or a rifle hunter? And then we'll just jump into some stories, man. Or
I
both.
I love archery hunting. I probably, oh, stand by. I'm going to pause and let my dog out. I apologize.
All right, that's fine. Running an outdoor business is a grind. One day you're glassing ridgelines or running dogs, the next you're tuning gear or working to keep the land wild. And somewhere in between, you're expected to fill calendars, move product, and keep your name alive. That's where the Ignite Marketing Group comes in. They work with outfitters, gear brands, and conservation groups to tell your story the way it deserves to be told, and to put it in front of the people who live for this lifestyle. Imagine a website that doesn't just sit there, but actually books hunts. Imagine campaigns that don't feel like ads, but like a buddy passing along a tip. Imagine your story reaching more hunters, anglers, and outdoor enthusiasts who get it and who want it. That's what Ignite does. No gimmicks, no flash, just real growth for people who belong in the outdoors. Don't just market, ignite it. Learn more at ignitemarketinggp.com/outdoors.
For almost 50 years, Midway USA has been America's go-to source for just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Go to midwayusa.com to see our latest deals and promotions and take advantage of our super fast same-day shipping. If you need a cooler, a new fishing rod, another rifle, ammo, or a reloading press, you can find it all at midwayusa.com. Thanks for your business.
Sure. I love archery, learn a lot about hunting and tracking and stalking from archery, but I'm not afraid to use a rifle or shotgun depending on the seasons and
Gotcha.
What type of game we're going after.
All right. It's a hunter of opportunity. I love that. I am as well.
Sure. Yeah.
Perfect, man. Well, why don't you set the stage for the first story of the day? I'd love to hear it.
Okay. I got clearance from my wife on this one, Sarah. We were fortunate enough about, I would say, almost 15 years ago to plan a trip to South Africa. My one buddy of mine had lost a family member, and he kind of realized that you got to take advantage of the time you have when you have it. So we took a few years and planned a trip to South Africa on a plains game trip, and my wife wasn't going to let me go just with my buddy, so I brought her along and my kid, and we went to a place in just north of Port Elizabeth. It's like the southernmost tip of South Africa, and to hunt plains game. My wife had gone through hunter's ed and was never raised as a hunter or a hunter's family. She kind of married into it myself. And so when she came out to South Africa, one of the things that we wanted to try to accomplish is having her harvest her first game animal.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so she went big with her first ever hunt. So she didn't like dabble around in Washington with you beforehand with elk or deer or anything. She just went straight to South Africa and went after, a lion or something.
Yeah. It was her first time. I mean, she had shot firearms. She's actually really good at shooting. It's kind of embarrassing for me to admit she's a better shooter. But she, that was her first time actually shooting at an animal, was in South Africa.
Interesting.
Yeah. So kind of to set the stage, we had been in the country for a few days, and it was her turn up on the rifle. We were using one of the PH's rifles. He has a suppressor on it. It was a 30-06 Seiko, really cool rifle. But she had practiced with it before and was spot on. And when we went out for the evening, my daughter and my wife and the guy, Francois, him and his dad owned the land that we were hunting on. So we were very lucky to be hunting where we were at. And one of the animals she was going to go after was a impala, which is about the size of a decent sized deer. And they're pretty plentiful where we were at. But I mentioned prior to them going out that I get a little excited that it might have been better for the guide and my wife to go on, pair up and go out for impala. So I didn't tell her all the different advice and chat in her ear and make her kind of flustered. So
overwhelm her with information and whatnot.
Yeah, and like I said, I get really excited, so I don't think it was going to help the situation by any means.
Yeah.
So me and my kid kind of held back, and the PH and my wife went down to this. I think it was their honey hole. Sounded like it was a great spot. Went down to this meadow in the evening to hunt the impala, but there was, wildebeest and some of the other plains game that were kind of occupying the meadow at the same time. But from her recollection, she got down there, they got settled in like a little makeshift brush blind, and the impala, they make sort of like a grunt noise when they're rutting, like almost like a deer grunt.
Okay.
And so there's multiple impala grunting, and the whole scene was kind of being set, and the PH kind of prepping her, getting her postured for a shot on one of the impala. And as the impala started approaching the meadow and coming out, she was just said that the whole scene was just really intensifying. Like her heart rate was like pounded through her chest. Her heart
I
was
believe it.
out of her chest, and things started to seem kind of like surreal, for her, because she had never been in that situation. And the guide was trying to calm her down, and she said she got so nervous, and the setting, it was very, very quiet. And the guide was whispering, and then they were sitting there waiting for these impala to get into shooting range. And all of a sudden, it got dead quiet, and all of a sudden it was this. She looked over at the guide. The guide looked over at her. Her face just flushed out red.
Oh no. Are you telling me she ripped one?
She said, that she was so nervous that, she had some gas. Luckily, the guide was really cool. They both just looked at each other and just started cracking up right there in the blind,
Yeah.
And
I've heard of people like having anxious toots. I've heard of that. I don't know where I've heard of it, but it doesn't seem too far-fetched. It's pretty funny, though. But most people probably keep it to themselves, so I'm glad you got permission to tell the story.
Yeah, I got clearance on this prior to saying this, but it sounded like it might be something I incorporated into my shot process, because the animals came out, and he helped her out, get lined up, and she placed a perfect shot one shot on this impala. And he kind of razzed me, because it was a great shot.
Yeah,
one
she
shot,
called it in too.
They were able to bring the animal up to the rally point, and it was such a great shot that those animals have a real light hide on them, like as far as the coloring, and it was just pink, like lung foam coming down from the shot. That's all. There's just a little trail there. So
Yeah.
And she was more than exhilarated. From her words herself, it's a life-changing experience for her. With the funny side part of her
Yeah.
having some gas, but her and the guide they had a great time, and that was, I guess, my first little story I like to share with people at her expense.
And we appreciate it. That's super cool, though, especially that she immediately was like, that was life-changing. So how did she feel about the rest of the process? I love to ask about this. Like, how'd she do? Did your PHs do all the processing, or did she get her hands a little dirty? And what did it look like after the harvest for her?
Yeah, so she was involved in it, partially involved in like gutting the animal and stuff. But they have, at the place we went to, they have a farm also, and they have they had like a locker where they had like, it was real professional. Everything, even the guts, they utilized. They gave to their hands they make soups and things out of the intestines and the vitals. But so the gutting process she was involved in, but a lot of the other, like, I guess the butchering and whatnot was kind of left to the people that helped assist in all that. So it was more than just one animal hanging there. So
yeah. When you asked for permission, did she go, Leif, those 15 years ago, drop it?
Not really. She wanted to tell it herself, and in her words, I guess. And I was mentioning how you were talking about the campfire setting and whatnot,
Yeah.
with guys telling the other side of the story. Because she had one that she thought was better, and I'm like, well, that one I think will be better to listen to than the one she had planned.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and then it was life changing. So did she? How did she enjoy the meat? Last two questions, I promise, and then we'll move on. How did she enjoy the meat? Because I assume you guys ate some of it. And then secondly, did she come home and was she just on your hip every hunting season from then on, or what has she done as far as that life changing moment? Has she fallen in love with hunting?
I would say yes. We all ate the meat. That was one of the things that I thought was cool about our, I guess, adventure was the family cooked all the food for us out of
Hmm.
like a kind of like a looked similar to like a Dutch oven. It was like a big pot they would cook on an open fire. Um, so that was pretty cool. And we ate some of the other animal like kudu and some of the other game meat. So we definitely got to taste and take part in some of the fair share of the different game they had there. Unfortunately, no, she hasn't really. I mean, she still would like to go out, just kids and sports and school and
Yeah.
work and everything else. I think, and she's manages most of my problems, so I think that might
Yeah,
take up some
that's a
of her
job in
time.
itself. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I was just curious. That's interesting. You should get her out, sometime soon and see if she still has the love for it. Because, I don't know. That's interesting that she just sort of put it back onto the shelf after unleashing something like taking an animal's life. That's crazy.
Yeah, I thought she was, I bought her a bow and a shotgun and all these different things, and I still invite her on any opportunity I can to have her come out with me, even if she's not carrying a weapon. But yeah, I look forward to it. Hopefully, I mean that was a while ago, but definitely like to get after it. I
Yeah.
enjoy having new people or just someone to go out with. Really,
Yeah, absolutely. A cuddle buddy when you're out there in camp.
someone to
Less
actually
hairy cuddle buddy.
bring food instead of me just taking off.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, let's keep going, man. What else you got for us? That was a good starter.
Yeah,
Little appetizer there.
that one I guess is the first one I had on my list. The other one's also not a story of mine, but I'll send it. So in around Thanksgiving, typically our muzzleloader elk season happens in Western Washington, and I used to hunt that quite a bit with my dad and a buddy. We'd have dinner at his place and whatnot, and go out before and after Thanksgiving, and just around that time frame, you're allowed to shoot a cow or a 3-point bull with
Okay.
a muzzleloader. And we typically would hunt like commercial timberlands or just small state properties and stuff for cow or bull. We didn't care as long as it was legal. But around that time, I would say it was early 2000s. It seemed like it rained a lot in Washington. It was just soaker. Like you really had to pay attention to your weapons and whatnot to make sure they would go off when you had a shot opportunity.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, Leaf, but my very first hunt was muzzleloader in Washington. So I'm all familiar with like the open breech plug and all the
Yeah,
regulations for Washington. So I believe that, man. It's tough to keep that dry.
yeah, you'll get burned if you don't pay attention. It happens, right?
Yep.
Um, but anyways, yeah, one morning we went out, spent a few hours out in the soaker rain and forest and all that, and decided to go to a little cafe down the road from my buddy's place to warm up and dry off and have some coffee and some breakfast. And the place that we went to was called the Kelly's Country Cafe, the KKK, and that's how it says it on the
So
sign.
it claims itself as the KKK at the bottom of the sign.
Well, the Kelly's has a capital K, the country has a capital
Okay.
K, and the cafe has a
That
capital
is
K.
bold marketing right there. Okay.
But it has great food, and it's not nothing fancy for sure. I mean, there's cork uh, marks on the floor from the loggers' boots and whatnot, and all that.
Okay.
But anyways, we were in there having a cup of coffee, and there was this old kind of rough-looking character in there that kept eyeballing us while we were sitting at the cafe. And he asked us if we were out muzzleloader hunting and or elk hunting? And he said, yeah, we just came in to get dry. So he proceeded to tell us this story of his hunting camp he had one time up on one of the private timberlands. Him and a handful of buddies were out, I think, drinking more than hunting is how he put it.
Yeah.
And they had spent like a few days there, and they woke up late one morning, and it was their last day, and they had some regrets for all the time they burned in camp, just, you know, hooting and hollering.
Yeah.
So they said they were going to go on this walkabout and just at least hunt as much as they could before they had to go home. So he said they walked up behind these gates, and he said they were walking at least 3 or 4 hours down these logging roads, you know, mostly just burning off the booze than anything. But they were real burned out and getting kind of frustrated and getting ready to turn around, and they seen this car tucked back in the woods, right? Looked like it had been there for years. And you know, they were sitting around like, okay, we haven't seen anything, we haven't heard anything, we haven't seen anybody. So they decide to, you know, get set up and take target practice at this car.
All right.
So they're sitting there, and you know, this thing hadn't looked like it had moved in years. So we sit there, and they're blinking away at it. Didn't think nothing about it. Get done shooting, start coming back down the mountain, you know. So they hiked about, you know, 2 hours back down, pull stakes and break their camp down. And as they were approaching their camp, they came up to the gate. Here's this guy with a fuel can.
Oh, no.
And they're like, hey, you know, greeting each other. And he's like, yeah, I ran out of fuel up on top of the mountain, just going up there. And their eyes got wide open. They're like, oh my gosh. They end up shooting out this guy's car.
Oh my God. Did they own up to it right away, or did they just say, good
no,
luck and let them hike for a couple hours?
There's nothing good about this story as far as their acts, but
yeah,
he said they pulled stakes and hauled ass out of there.
Oh, God.
But it was just odd to hear, you know, in a little cafe. But once again, it wasn't my story, but I always remember that because it's just very unexpected.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that 100%. It's interesting that they were seeing this car and it just was so beat up. They're like, oh yeah, it's have to have been in here for a long time. Let's shoot some rounds at it. Were they muzzleloader hunting too, or was that just you guys
no,
muzzleloader?
I think they were modern firearm hunting. And,
okay.
And back in those, I guess that time frame, you know, a lot of the gates were just open, so people would drive, you know, all over those.
Yeah.
Not to justify it, but you would see, you know, trash and boats and RVs and parked in random places you never think you would see back in the woods, you know. So
yeah, interesting, man. You know what? I'll be honest, like, with that circumstance, I might have done the same thing. I might have shot at it. Who knows? It sounds like especially if you're having a frustrating day. You're coming, you know, you're a little sleepy because you were probably a little drunk earlier and you're not anymore. So maybe a little grumpy. That'd be yeah. I don't blame him.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure hopefully the guy, at least vehicle still ran. I don't know.
At Midway USA, we put customers first. The Nitro Express shipping system is icing on the cake. It was a big investment of time and money to take super fast, low-cost shipping to a whole new level. The Nitro Express helps ensure same-day shipping and low shipping costs. We hope you enjoy the Nitro Express. We built it just for you. For just about everything for the outdoors, go to MidwayUSA.com. I'm Larry Potterfield with Midway USA. Thanks for your business.
Bow hunting all comes down to a moment. And in the moment, you want equipment on your bow that will get the job done. Trophy Ridge products are the tools bow hunters trust. React technology sights, rests, stabilizers, and quivers to help a bow hunter be successful in the field. And those tools are from Trophy Ridge.
Yeah, that could go either way. I wonder if I'm curious. I'd love to ask the guys that were shooting, like, were they shooting central mass? Were they shooting engine, you know, windows, tires? Like, where do you shoot when you're shooting at a dead car? I'm wondering, I do wonder if that car got up and running again.
Yeah, I don't know. I imagine the windows are cool to see. I don't know.
Yeah.
Shattered.
I just imagine that guy getting up there, putting the gas in the gas tank, and it's just leaking out onto the ground, and him being like, "What the hell?"
Oh, that would have not a good scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was great. Yeah, I don't mind you sharing random diner stories. I think those are some of the best stories you can get. It's just that random guy that never leaves the diner, but always has a story for somebody. Who knows how true they are, but it's still a great story.
Yeah, I don't think he made that up.
All right, cool. Well, what else you got, man?
All right, so I'll get into a hunting one. This one's pretty cool. To me it's cool. Uh, it's an elk hunting story, and it involves a little bit about my dad. Unfortunately, that was my hunting buddy, my road dog, all that.
Yeah.
We had spent years hunting together. But this one involves it was on an archery elk hunt a year after my dad passed. Me and some buddies went to Idaho, in not back country, kind of front country, but in the national forest. And the one area we were hunting, it's kind of cool. It's about a 4 mile ridge with a bunch of little drainages in it, and it's all kind of timbered with a huge flat of like pines and broken country
Okay.
going up to the leading up to the ridge. But we always ran into elk on that ridge in that timber because I don't think a lot of guys went in there, and to try to get in there and hunt them is very difficult because the wind is always switching. So to get a shot with a bow is very difficult. So anyways, 3 years ago we were in there, and we were kind of just sitting on a wallow in the heat trying to hope to God that something would come in for a drink and we'd maybe get a shot while we were archery hunting. And anyways, that didn't pan out. We were calling and doing everything we could to try to get something to come in. And as we were coming back down off that ridge, I went down to that wallow, and to say my dad was a elk nut would be disjustice. He loved elk hunting. Like,
Yeah.
our neighbors hated him, throughout the summer, sitting there calling, and he was fanatical.
Bugling in the
about it.
backyard.
Yeah, and so I just thought to myself, I was carrying around his ashes, and I'd put them in rivers and different cool spots, little apple orchards that we used to hunt
Yeah.
deer at and stuff. But I thought, man, that would be cool to throw his ashes in this wallow, and some bull, like, he would think that was so cool for a bull to sit down there and get all muddy and stinky, and then carry him off, wherever he ended up going across the mountain.
Yeah,
But
that is kind of a cool thought.
so I ended up doing that, and then the next year I applied. I don't know if you ever had dealt with any of the non-resident Idaho stuff. It used to be a race up until this year to get a tag in a unit that you wanted.
Yeah.
But I wasn't able to get the archery tag, so I ended up picking up a rifle tag last year, which still great hunting. Idaho's a beautiful state, but wasn't the tag I wanted, so I was kind of disappointed. So me and some friends that we've been hunting with went back to the same place, just kind of went through the same motions, hunting that same area, and we had hunted a little bit different spot the day before, and we're kind of beat down, like disappointed the opening day. We heard all these shots and, just didn't see anything.
Yeah.
So that evening, I kind of went back up into that area where that wallow was, and I bumped into some cows, and I could hear a bull in there. I swore I heard a bull in there just kind of panting. It almost sounded like he was maybe chasing the cows around, but he wasn't bugling. He just breathing real heavy. But it was still, even in October, it was still pretty dry in the woods. I couldn't just chase after them or, try to stalk on them. So I backed out of that area for the evening and ran it by my buddies and stuff, seeing what their thoughts were, or seeing if they seen anything, and then didn't really have a plan for the next morning. So got up, got all our stuff together, and didn't have a plan. So I was like, I'm just going to go right back into where I was at the day before, and not to get weird, but for whatever reason, I have a little Bible in my little glove compartment area in my pickup. And I was just kind of waiting a little while before it got light because I didn't want to punch in there too quick and blow the elk out, because I really believe they come down in those flats to feed and then go right back up that mountain to bed in the thicker blowdowns and whatnot.
Okay.
So anyways, sat there, read a few pages of the Bible, got out, walked up into this area where it's kind of clear. And right before I got into the timber, I heard a bugle. And it's probably the 20s, probably around this time, maybe 21st or 22nd of October.
Okay.
I'm like, wow, that was pretty close, So I got pretty excited and raced to where I thought he might have bugled from. And I come out, and there's a pretty decent sized meadow, about the size of a football stadium, as I punch out of the woods. And then there's like a real defined line of pine trees that lead up to the ridge that I got into the elk the day prior. And as I came out that line of pines, here's this bull just standing there broadside, maybe 200 yards away. And I just came unglued, I put my rifle up and my crosshairs were doing a figure eight, and I don't even think I don't think my crosshairs ever made it on the animal. And I was able to check myself, and I'm like, okay, use your bipod, lay down, do all this stuff. And anyways, he didn't even notice me. He sat there, was feeding and whatnot. I was able to regroup and took a shot, and he just dropped right there, flopping on the ground. And I wasn't really excited, I guess, at that time. I just kind of gathered my thoughts and whatnot, and didn't want him to get up and run off, because the way he dropped was almost like I shot him in the spine or something. He just flopped right on the ground. So I shot him again, and he just quit moving,
Yeah.
Picked up my stuff, and it ended up being maybe a 120-yard shot, real quick and dirty, easy, simple shot. And I get up to this bull, and it still sun hasn't, creeped over the tree line just yet. And I get up to the bull, and I grab on his antler, and I go to lift it up, and there's only one horn. He only had one horn. And
a unicorn.
it was an awesome bull,
Yeah.
I think it's a 5-point, like a solid 5-point, but I'm like, what the heck did I just do, But so I reached out to my buddies. We were able to prepare it and all that, and everything worked out great. But I just think to myself, like, did this bull go up to that? He had to have been in that wallow at some point where I dropped my dad's ashes.
100%.
So cool, like, to think about that, because he would have loved to be there, but just that whole cycle I think there was more to it than just, running around the woods with the, weapon and shooting something. It was pretty cool.
That's amazing. So the one antler, was it like he had two and one had just fallen off and it was like right in the exact spot it should be in a normal antler? Or was it more unique than that, where like he got injured and that one never grew, and so this one maybe went towards the center of the head? Like, give me a description of this bull here, because that's super cool to find one with one antler.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's cool to get him with both antlers too, right?
That's also true.
Just from visual, like, at the moment, it just had a bunch of like almost looked like it was rubbing on trees and stuff, with that side, but it was just beyond the pedicle. There was no like antler still attached to the pedicle. Like his pedicle was snapped off, right? But I couldn't tell that at when we first had it on the ground. But my buddy's niece, who is about 12, that was her first time out on an elk hunt. And my buddy's friend, kind of like a ranch hand, helped. And we were, it was a teaching moment, but we were able to talk them into butchering the elk for us, as a learning lesson, but also, I mean, they were out there to help, but kind of was nice to not have to do all the dirty work.
Yeah.
But no, so we had removed all the meat off this elk, right? And kind of took the neck meat all the way off, deboned all the neck meat and all that. And not until I got home did I find, I was sitting there butchering the neck meat trying to cut roast. I found a whole broadhead in the neck. Like the guy that was butchering it could have easily have gotten sliced or, I don't know. There was no indication that there was like pus or like a wound there. It was totally healed over like a sleeve of scar tissue.
Wow.
And it's really interesting. But no, that bull must have either got shot off, I'm assuming, like maybe a year or two prior, because the pedicle's like smaller on one side.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was interesting. It was hard to actually pack out with that one side. It's kind of lopsided, but
I bet. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I've always heard that when like a back left leg gets hurt, the right antler is weird. So like usually it's the opposite side back, but you assume it's got to go forward from the back to the front. So you probably can nick something. Was the broadhead in the opposite side of the missing antler?
It was in the side of the missing antler, and it was almost would be quartering away maybe when it got hit. Like it was kind of up like diagonally towards the top of its head, but it was right in the thick of its neck.
That's crazy. And no arrow animals or anything attached, just a broadhead?
The whole I could have put it in an arrow shaft, and if I would have sharpened it, it was clean. There was no rust or anything. It looked like it came out of the pack. No arrow shaft or anything. Like it was no thread, just threads and everything were there.
There you go. I guess I need to start storing my broadheads in elk between seasons. It keeps them in that good a shape. I wish. Oh, cool. Well, that's a great story, man.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool story. It turned out great. I wish it had happened again this year, but I can't see.
Right. Can't win them all.
No.
I ate tank soup this year too, but I got a kiddo on the way, so it's it is what it is. I just don't have as much time in the woods this year as I normally would because I got to make sure that just in case that baby shows up early, I'm here.
Yeah, it's important, right?
Yep, absolutely. Well, what else you got for us, man?
All right, let me skip down a little bit. I got a pretty cool blacktail story. People like to hear about blacktails. I'm about probably more fanatical, just as fanatical about blacktail than my dad was about elk. Like my neck swells up around this time of year, and I can't think straight.
Yeah. What do you think it is? Like, what is it for you about blacktails that gets you so fired up?
For me, I think that's just what I started on hunting.
Okay.
And just the whole thing, like the time of year, baseball playoffs, the leaves falling, just the whole thing just eats me up. I don't know. And then I spent a lot of times not seeing anything in the woods hunting blacktails. So this is the time you actually start seeing deer, in a week or so. They'll start actually moving, and you get to see the big ones come out. Pretty cool time of year. Yeah.
That's awesome. I've never hunted a blacktail. I like the way you put that. But keep going. Let's dive into the story.
Okay. Yeah. So when I was in high school, I used to hunt a lot just with me and my dad. And in high school, I played a lot of baseball. I didn't have a lot of time or didn't go hunting a lot. But I had a friend that was trying to get into it that played on my team. So I told him, me and my dad can take you out and at least show you some spots. No promises. I'm not a guide or anything like that. But he was real interested. He, redid his stock on his rifle, went and zeroed it on his own, did all the footwork you need to do to be, ready.
That's great. Because a lot of times you'll invite someone and they don't do that pre-work and they're just like, think they can show up and do everything. And they're not really that interested. So it's nice to go out with someone new who's like really excited and doing the things that you're supposed to be doing.
Sure. Yeah. And this kid, he's probably about 6 foot tall, Vietnamese guy, right? But quiet, very quiet and reserved, and doesn't like. I'd probably be jumping up and shouting. This guy, just doesn't show a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
But really solid guy, really, really meticulous, and it pays off for him. But anyways, we go out, and like I said, it's during the time when the bucks were starting to rut, right around Halloween.
Okay.
And the way we typically would approach new areas was just get on like an old Forest Service road or logging road that's kind of overgrown, that maybe someone can't follow behind you, like in a vehicle or whatnot, and kind of just sneak along, and hopefully you hear something or see something. And, in the 90s, we didn't have cool gear like there is now, as far as, rain gear and all this, hybrid materials and all that. But we still got out there and we still did it, right? Anyways, he was still learning, so I kind of shadowed or kind of tagged along with him, and kind of gave him pointers as we were walking down this old logging road. And as we were walking, it was just starting to get light out. We were approaching this real tall timbered edge, real tall stand of timber. And as we were walking up there, it was real brushy except for that little road. We hear all this commotion in these bushes, and I'm like, that is, some deer are right, 20 yards from us, but you can't see anything. And his eyes were, he didn't know what to do. He just gripped his rifle and was like, what do I do,
Yeah.
But they weren't coming out of there. They just kept hearing. It just almost sounded like they were running in place in this brush, And I said, I met up with them. I said, listen, go up to the edge of this timber, and I'll just start throwing these rocks in this brush to try to get them out in the open so we can at least see what it is, And I told them, be quiet so they don't know where you're at, but get set up and be ready, because if they come out of there, they're coming out of there fast, And so I gathered up all these rocks that I could find in this grassy little road, and I just start pitching them to where I thought they would be kind of held up at. And I don't know if it was the rocks or the buck was just going to push his does out there anyways, but they ended up eventually, pushing out of that real thick, dense brush, and boom, boom, boom. This kid just starts shooting, right?
Yeah.
And after about his fourth shot, it got real quiet. No brush busting or anything like that. And I walk up to him, and he's just shaking, like, it was the big one, it was the big one. That's all he could say. And
That's
like
awesome.
I said, I get excited too. So I'm like, just assuming that he's going to be still standing there, but that wasn't the case. So I said, let's hang out. We ran back. I ran back to the truck, and I got my dad because his legs were all broke up. We all gathered together, and we were going to go and see if we could find blood or have to do any tracking or whatnot. So we go back in there. We kind of spread out, have this master plan, of how we're going to walk up on this buck. And we don't find anything. I would say, maybe it's 5 acres of tall timber, so he could be anywhere in that. And the brush is up to your chest.
Okay.
But you can walk through it. And me and my buddy are walking around, and all of a sudden, boom, boom, hearing 2 shots go off. We're like, what the heck? I'm like looking around, like, I could see everything around me. And me and him get together and go back and talk to my dad. And he's like, I shot him. And we're like, where? Where is this at? And he starts pointing, and we walk over to where he was like, yeah, he has to be down right there, this and that. And he had shot at a stump, like I want to say 2 times, but it might have been 3 times, right?
Your dad did?
Yes. Because he, whatever, got all excited, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so all this commotion, all this stuff goes on. We walk through all this area, don't find anything, no blood, hair, or anything. We back out of there, go and grab a sandwich at the truck and kind of negotiate what we're going to do. Time goes on and we try to come up with a plan for the evening, right? We're just going to go sit somewhere, some clear cut or some opening or whatever. And we asked my buddy Viet, like, where are you going to go? He's like, I'm going right back in there and sitting, right? And we're like, okay. But I mean, we kind of blew that area out, shot, walking, all that stuff, right? So me and my dad link up. We send him in there, make sure he had his flashlight and all that. Tell him, hey, meet back at here just at dark so that we don't have to go looking for you. Because he hadn't been in the woods very long, hunting at least.
Yeah.
And we go, me and my dad go sit somewhere, and it's kind of uneventful. We don't see anything. And we're like, we'll just go wait for him. Park at this T in these Forest Service roads and just kind of wait till it's dark. We pull up to where we're supposed to meet him, and this guy's just standing there. And like I said, he don't show any emotion. He just has a shit-eating grin on his face,
Oh, yeah.
We're like, what happened? He's like, I got him. We're like, yeah, right. Like,
Just like you got the first one, buddy.
sure. And he said he went back into that same spot where the buck was standing when he first shot. And he went in there and was sitting on this stump. And there's this brush called salal. It's about, like I said, chest high, but you can walk through it very easily. And he said he was sitting there, and just as it was starting to get dark, this buck was 20 yards from that stump, was bedded there the whole time. I think waiting for the does to come back or what. He said it stood up, he shot it, and it dropped right there in its tracks.
No, so was it the same buck he thinks that he shot at the first
buck.
time?
Yeah, it was the same exact buck.
Did he hit it the first time or no?
No, it was, I don't even think he, had it in its sights. But anyways, it was giant deer for that type of deer, and first deer he ever shot at, first buck. And then, so we help him get it, clean it, all that stuff. He does all the dirty work and ends up being a lifelong hunter. But the following year, the same scenario, except for he didn't miss this time. He shot a giant, not a giant rack deer, but a giant body deer in that same spot. Same time frame, everything. So
that's
lucky.
Amazing. And he became a lifelong hunter, huh?
Oh yeah, he had the bug. I mean, easily had the bug. So,
Are you guys still in contact?
Off and on. He still hunts, but no, we parted ways. I mean, that was 30 years ago or so.
Yeah.
But he knows, like, he understands, like, because we had hunted seasons after that. He knows, like, how lucky he was, because there was a lot of days we didn't see anything.
Okay. All right. Cool. Very cool. Did you ever ask him what was like the factor of him being like, I want to learn to hunt, and like reaching out to you and getting the process started? Like, where was it in his life that he was like, this is what I want to do right now?
I don't know what triggered that exact time, but his family, it's a real interesting story. His family was migrants from Vietnam, and they had actually, I don't know how it worked, but they used to own a cedar mill up in Forks, Washington, which was pretty remote, in the rainforest. And I think it might have been genetic. His mom was hardcore, like outdoor woman. He told me the story. There's a place called the Solduck River, pretty famous steelhead river up in Forks. She caught a steelhead while she was pregnant, went and had his little brother at some small community in Forks, and went back fishing that same day.
Dude, that generation, man, those ladies are tough. Here's one completely unrelated to hunting and fishing, but my mother-in-law, she's one of 8, right, from Saskatchewan, Canada. And her mom, I think it was when she was born, because she's in the middle, so she's the fourth of the 8, but she's one of 8 kids. And when she was born, the story is that mom got up, didn't want to wake dad, so walked into the other room and had a baby. When dad woke up, she was just holding the baby there, like, yeah, I just didn't want to wake you, no big deal, just throwing babies around here. So it's that generation of lady, man, that are they're tough ladies.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's part of why he had that bug, but I also think you're just trying something different. Like where I grew up, I mean, where I still live, it's not like, I guess, a community of hunters. Like 1% of people probably even know, what I do, or do go hunting. I live in the city, grew up in the city, and a lot of kids don't have that opportunity to go out back and hunt on the farms or whatever. But so I think there might have been some like curiosity there, maybe just to see, and
yeah, you should reach out to him, man, and then you should introduce me, because I'd love to hear where that took him from those blacktail hunts to like where he is now, and I'd love to hear his stories, and also what did get him into it, because it'd be very interesting to find out.
Yeah, I will definitely try and reach out to him. Yeah, because he'll probably tell a different side of the story.
Exactly.
My dad are a little wild when it comes to deer hunting.
He'll be like, this guy's dad just kept shooting stumps.
he would probably like, what did I get myself into? These guys are crazy,
Yeah.
Because a lot of the weather we were hunting in was just horrible, and we're just kind of pushing through a lot of really nasty spots, but we would see deer, so
yeah. I've hunted a lot in Colorado in November and September and October. October in Washington is the coldest I've ever been. Just soaking wet, just didn't have good gear, and man, such a miserable experience. Didn't even see any animals either. So
then that's the, if you see something, you forget how cold you are.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. Well, that's a great story as well. Leif, you're killing it today. What else? Do you have any more for us, or what do you got?
Yeah, I got let's see.
We're also coming up on time. I want to be respectful of that. If you got to go somewhere, we can end it right here, or you can keep going. Your call.
No, let me, I'll do a pig story. I've heard a few pig stories on here.
Yeah.
I used to work as a contractor, and I would travel to different states to issue equipment to the military.
Okay.
And when I would travel, I would take my weapons, my bow or my fishing poles or shotgun or whatever. Well, same kind of story. There was this guy, Twiggy, real tall, skinny guy that knew everything about weapons and shooting.
Yeah.
More than you'd ever want to know, but he'd never been hunting before. He just wasn't taught or shown anything. So I explained to him a lot of the stuff and always tell him my crazy stories and whatnot. And he was very interested. So we went to this pawn shop in Georgia. And back then you could kind of go on Craigslist and look for pig hunts or properties to hunt and whatnot. Yeah. So we booked this pig hunt on this farm for like $100, someplace in Georgia, just out of Columbus. And we went and bought this $100 Mosin Nagant rifle from this pawn shop. Cool rifle. They're expensive now, but at that time, it was just something we could afford off of our per diem.
Yeah.
And the night before we went out there, we ran into these kids from Georgia, and we're just talking smack and drinking beers and sitting by this barbecue. And I might have had too many of those beers, but I was guaranteeing that we were going to get a pig and telling them how we were going to do this and do that, right? So the next morning we get up, go to this farm, and I still have the map somewhere, but this farmer gives us this like hand-drawn map that looks like my son had, sketched it out. Big circle, and it said, pigs here,
X marks the spot. That's perfect.
It didn't match the farm or the layout or anything, but we're like, okay, this is where we're at least starting from. And we get all our stuff together, and it was actually pretty cold for that area, but we start walking around this property, and it looked like kind of like an old clear cut, just all wasn't really manicured farm or anything like that. So we start walking around there, and we crest over this ridge, and there's a whole pile of these pigs sitting there, right? And this boar, he actually had pretty good tusks on him, was just posturing all around, like protecting these pigs, you know. And even though we had the rifle, he's like, this is close. Like, we got to be careful here, right?
So you popped
And,
over the hill. How far were they when you popped over?
We hiked in there about a half a mile into the middle of the farm, and then we popped over this little ridge, and they were probably, realistically, now that I think about it, maybe 60 yards.
Okay.
You know, and like I said, I get a little excited, but the kid holding the rifle, I'm like, okay, go ahead and shoot. And I look over at him, and he's just frozen, like didn't know what to do, like, and that's fine, you know.
Yeah,
I get it. Like, everybody's reaction is different and all that, but he just came to the point where, like, this is go time, you know. And anyways, he didn't pull the trigger, and they kind of pushed off over another little ridge in the farm. And I said, hey, you got to do something here, because this is what we came here to do. And we snuck back around, and there was this huge sow in there that ended up presenting with a shot. And I could see him just shaking, you know. And it was open sights on that rifle, like kind of not very good sights.
yeah.
And we were shooting FMJ bullets and just the whole you know, weapon system, and bullets were not meant for that. But he ends up taking a shot and hitting it center mass, right? You could see it plain as day. I'm like, oh no. And the rest of the
Did
pigs,
he use aiming center mass? Just hoping to get enough will to fire the shot?
He hit it, and you know, it wasn't the best shot, but it didn't matter. You know, we knew he hit it. And the rest of the pigs kind of peeled off, and we go and kind of just try to get a good approach without trying to push it too far into the brush or anything like that. Get to a spot where he takes a second shot, and it hits it like almost like in the ridge of its back, just like in a no man's land. And we're like, oh no. It runs off again, and finally we catch up with it, and it looks like it's dead, you know, laying down in this little kind of creek bottom,
Okay.
just motionless, right? So I said, okay, let's just take our time. So we snuck up, and it's still, you know, we're maybe 15 yards from it, and I'm like, it's still dead. I said, let me get this stick here, and I'll go up here and poke it. And it was, you know, probably a 10-foot stick that was kind of arched.
Yeah.
And I sneaked down to the creek bottom, so Twiggy's about 10 yards above me, right? I go and I poke this pig, and it was facing away from us in the creek bottom. I poke this pig, and like on the back of its ear, and it spins around and runs at me without, like, I don't even think its feet hit the ground, and it was coming at me. And Twiggy, so it was facing Twiggy going up the hill. I was running towards Twiggy. He fires, and that's a bolt action rifle. He fired off 3 rounds in like 5 seconds, like boom, 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 all right in the face. So I was very lucky he had all that, you know, weapons experience, because I would have gotten, well, I'd been if he would have outran me, I would have been in big trouble.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was coming to get me.
Yeah. Good thing you had like a 10-foot long stick rather than, I've seen a lot of guys go in with like their 3-foot or 2-foot stick being like right there. You'd have been on your ankles in no time. Good thing you thought ahead.
Yeah, and Twiggy goes, his heart was jumping out of his chest. He's like, I don't think you could, what did he say? I don't think you could shove a pin up my ass with a jackhammer.
Oh, man. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, so the whole thing goes down, and we go to clean it, and he was part of that. But I could see him, like, once we started cleaning it, he just goes white, like pale white. And so I'm somehow up to my elbows in this pig with blood, everything all over me. And he looks at me, he's like, I think we need to go to the hospital. I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, he doesn't have any blood on him.
Yeah.
What is going on? And he shows me his finger. He like pushes on his index finger, and there's like a pin drop of blood coming. And this is first time hunting, any of that, and I didn't want to like downplay it because some of those pigs carry weird shit, and stuff. And I'm like, okay, we'll get this out of here, and then we'll go to the clinic.
Yeah.
So we actually were lucky, took it to a butcher. They kind of prepped it for us and everything. But we go to the clinic, and there's a nurse in there, and we go in there, and she's like, okay, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, my buddy just needs to get checked out. We were pig hunting and this and that. She's like, oh, yeah, that seems serious, this and that. And she goes, what's going on? She showed him, he showed her finger, and she just looked like, smiled at him and was like, kind of shook her head, but reluctantly had to take him in there, but there was nothing they were going to do,
Yeah. They're like, let's get you a Band-Aid, sir. Would you like one with Paw Patrol on it or just regular?
That's pretty much what they did. So.
Oh, that was great. That's great. I'm glad you're alive, man. When those pigs start going crazy, they start going crazy. I don't know if you've heard my stories, but I've been all the same place in Texas. My buddy had double out buckshot, and he had to put 3 rounds into like a small hog, and it was charging right at him. And then he was like, all right, let's process this thing. And I was like, brother, you hit that thing with like 18 slugs or like 18 little, like, there's no meat there. Like, I'm amazed they made it as far as it did. But then also we that same different night, but we hiked up this riverbed, and we hike up to where our truck's parked, and there's a bunch of hogs around my truck, and like they're bluff charging, and man, they're mean little suckers. I remember, so we had climbing up this little hill to get to my truck. We'd taken all the rounds out of our shotguns. And so, or the shells out of our shotguns. And so we're up there at the top, and I'm calling the game warden, and I'm like, sir, there's a bunch of hogs on the side of the highway. He's like, you cannot shoot on the side of the highway. And I'm like, yes, sir, I understand that, but they're kind of charging us. He's like, oh, well, defend yourself. Defend yourself. And right when he said that, they, of course, ran off, so we didn't get any up there. But, man, those hogs, even small ones, they can be pretty dang mean, man.
Yeah, and they're smart. Like, I've hunted them in real thick brush, and they would not move until they knew which way to run and everything, and not expose themselves. It was amazing. I'm like, these suckers are smart.
Yeah, I've heard that they're as smart as like a dog, which everyone's dogs can be real smart. Dogs can be real stupid, but in general, dogs are pretty smart.
Yeah, they know how to survive. I'll say that.
Yeah, man. Well, this was a ton of fun, man. I appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your stories. Feel free to reach back out when you have a few more you want to tell us, but I think we're going to wrap it up right here. Leif, do you want to share where the people can find you, or you want to walk off into the sunset?
Kind of walk off in the sunset, but if you have an opportunity, look at Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Armed Forces Initiative. And it's a great opportunity to get veterans of all branches and their spouses into the outdoors, hunting, fishing, and recreating. We do a lot of good stuff. It's all volunteer work, and feel free to reach out at any time. I have an Instagram. It's just my first name and last name.
Okay. Sure. If I'm assuming you have a link for that for the BHA stuff as well, send me that, Leif, and I'll put it in the show notes. So everyone listening right now, they can just go down there, check it out, quick click, and follow up with you if they want more information. Sound good?
Sounds great. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you very much. I really do appreciate you. One, sharing your stories. Those were really great, from Africa to Georgia to Washington. That was fun. But 2, also for being brave and reaching out, man, because I think a lot of people have some good stories but aren't willing to reach out. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, not a problem. And look forward to hearing some more of other people's stories coming down the line. Thanks.
Of course, man. Thanks again, Leif.
Thanks.
All right, guys, that's it. Another couple stories in the books. I want to thank Leif for coming on the podcast. Couldn't have done it without him. Thank you, of course, for sharing your stories and, of course, reaching out and saying that you had some stories to tell. Thank you, sir. I do appreciate you. For you listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate that. I couldn't do it without this. I probably wouldn't still be doing this if I didn't have as many people following now. But that being said, please share the podcast with one person today. That's your homework. And beyond that, give us a like, a follow, whatever. If you enjoyed this episode or any episodes in the past, it helps us grow, helps us get in touch with more people that maybe have a crazy story that they want to share. But that's it, guys. Thank you so much for your time. I really do.
Hey guys, this is Melissa Bachman. Are you ready to stop spooking deer before it's even time to hunt them? Then you need the new Flex S Dark cellular trail camera from SpyPoint. With a no-glow flash option, long-lasting solar power, and a ton of settings that can be changed anytime through the SpyPoint app, there are no more excuses for letting your deer get wise before the season even starts. So check it out for yourself and see why the SpyPoint Flex S Dark is the unstoppable and undetectable scouting tool you need for your next hunt.